Hi everybody, Russ Lewis with David Paul in the KHOU newsroom. We're in the Weather Center. This is where all the action is today. You've been watching this pretty closely, what's happening in the Gulf.
Busy day today. So what's new is that the Hurricane Center has gone ahead and issued an initial forecast cone for what they think is going to become a tropical depression. It's not a depression yet, but it looks so likely that it's going to, and it's so close to land. We're only a few days away from a potential landfall, so they've issued the forecast cone. We'll get to that in just a second. But just looking at the satellite and radar composite, and you can see the counterclockwise twist. This is the spot right here southeast of Louisiana where we believe we're getting a low-level circulation beginning to focus right there.
If you have any questions for David, by the way, I'm going to step off here and let you do your thing, but I'm going to watch Facebook here, and so write them in and I'll fire them to him as he's going through the forecast here.
Bring your questions.
Bring them on.
We want your questions. We're here to answer and inform you. So here's the latest update on the storm. Again, it's this part here that's beginning to rotate. You can see a little bit of a counterclockwise rotation there. At the moment, as of now, we don't have a cut-off close low. However, they're looking for it. And how are they doing that? They're flying the Hurricane Hunter aircraft, and that's the path it's taken, and that's where the Hurricane Hunter is right now, and they're going to crisscross this area. And what they're looking for are wind directions near the surface. They're trying to determine to see if we have a circulation that's completely circular, completely closed. Once we get that, that will determine its status as a tropical depression, and that's when it can quickly accelerate its wind speeds to tropical storm and perhaps up to a hurricane. In fact, that is the forecast from the Hurricane Center. Now here's our enhanced infrared satellite. This is our little spot right there, that red dot where they think the storm is beginning to form. And so what we have here is what's called a potential tropical storm, or potential forecast cone for a potential closed low that we think is about to form right here. I know that sounds confusing, but basically here's the forecast cone. And what we need to pay attention to is that Houston-Galveston is included on the west side of this forecast cone. Forecast cone. So, you know, we've got the storm going down the middle of it, but don't focus so much right on the middle. Statistically, it is just as likely that this storm, the center of it, can pass on the left-hand side of that cone or the right-hand side of that cone. As you go forward in time, uncertainty becomes larger, and that's why the cone expands and gets wider as you move forward in time. The current forecast as it stands is for this to become a depression, perhaps later today or tomorrow, and then become a tropical storm tomorrow and Friday south of New Orleans. And then on Saturday, perhaps strengthen significantly to an 85-mile-an-hour hurricane, and then make landfall somewhere either on the Louisiana or southeast Texas coast going into Saturday night, early Sunday as a hurricane. So what should you be doing right now, knowing that we're in the forecast cone, although we're not in the center of it, we're on the edge of that forecast cone? Well, here's what you should be doing right now. Just make sure that you are continuing to gather your family's hurricane supplies, food, batteries. Make sure you have your fuel tanks topped off. Make sure you have any prescription medicine you need to have. Make sure you have everything so you can be self-contained in your house if you're in an inland area. And so you don't have to get out in any type of chaos and plan any further. You can just stay put right where you are if the storm does come our way. Make sure your plan is ready to take action, especially if you live on the coast. No evacuation orders have been issued at this time, but if the storm were to come closer to Houston-Galveston, that would be a possibility. So we recommend that folks on the coast, Galveston County, down in Chambers County, along the coast of Brazoria and Matagorda County, that you have, bags packed, ready to go. And, if in case this storm comes closer to our direction, so you're ready to take action if that happens. And the best way to be ready to take action is to stay informed, so stay close to the forecast. How do you do that? The best way to do it is to go and download the KHOU 11 app. There you'll find literally a clearinghouse of information on the KHOU 11 app. Turn on the push alerts, because that's what we're doing. Every time we get a forecast update or we have a new video update, you'll get an alert, ding, ding, and it will alert you on your phone so you can immediately get the latest update, so you know immediately if that forecast decides to change and come a little bit closer to the Houston-Galveston area. I know people have questions.
They do. A lot of people asking about traveling. So Roxanne was talking about going to Panama City.
Yeah.
Let's say that, can you travel that direction, and if so, when?
Well, look, you're going to, I-10 at times on that path is going to be very difficult to travel. These are tropical downpours. You may have seen what happened earlier in New Orleans today. In fact, I think we may have some video of that, of what happened earlier in New Orleans.
In the French Quarter, yes. We have some video of that flooding.
I mean, tremendous flooding there. So, if you're traveling on I-10, that's driving through very heavy, blinding rain at times. If you're going to choose to travel east down I-10, heads up, from time to time, that is going to be very treacherous, and you may have to stop and let those storms pass. I know this is messing up a lot of people's travel plans and vacations, but I can't recommend traveling east on I-10 right now toward Florida, because you're going to have times where it's really heavy rain.
You talk about the dirty side and the clean side of storms. So a lot of people are asking, if it takes this track and does hit, east of us, what does that mean for us here if we don't get hit?
Well, that's a great question. So the dirty side of the storm, the strong side, is going to be the right-hand side to motion. So the right-hand side of that storm will get most of the bad weather close to the center on the right-hand side. So even if this were to become an 85-mile-an-hour hurricane, and let's say hit Beaumont, Port Arthur, Houston, Galveston would get a north breeze and maybe a few showers, but we really would miss most of the bad stuff. Even with a strike that close to us, it would be Beaumont, Port Arthur east that would get much more of the bad weather. Like, you can be several hundred miles to the east and still have terrible weather, and just a few 50, 100 miles to the west, and sometimes almost get nothing on the weak side of a hurricane. They're all different,
right?
But that's the difference between the dirty side on the right side and the clean side on the left-hand side to motion.
Someone is asking about a comparison to Alicia.
Sure. Well, that is the comparison, because Alicia was born from a little tropical wave in the mid-levels. It formed right here on the Mississippi-Alabama line. This was in 1983. Just like this one formed over southern Alabama into the Florida Panhandle, and now it's moved off the coast. That little disturbance, once it moves off the coast, works its way down to that warm surface ocean water, and that's what's beginning to happen with this one. And it made a track very similar to this Alicia, although Alicia took a direct hit on Galveston and Houston as a Cat 3. I believe peak winds were 115 miles an hour. Russ, that was my first experience with a hurricane. It scared the daylights out of me. And it knocked trees down all the way even north of Huntsville. So a strong hurricane, don't think just because you're in Huntsville you wouldn't feel impacts if it were to take a direct hit. You'd have massive trees down and widespread power outages all the way up I-45, even north of Huntsville.
Well, we have so many people watching right now who are relatively new residents. Some people didn't even go through Harvey 2 years ago, and that wasn't a direct hit of a hurricane onto Houston. That was just a lot of rain. It's been a while since we've had those kind of winds you're talking about with something like Alicia.
It's been since Ike was the last close one, and Ike was Cat 2. Inland, I can speak for northwest Harris County, we had wind gusts of 75 or 80 miles an hour. Did a tremendous amount of roof damage, that one did. Now, at the moment, it's too early to tell exactly what the impacts will be here, because we don't know. There's still a lot of uncertainty in this forecast track. The biggest problem is we still don't have a closed low out here. That's what the hurricane hunter is out here looking for. That's the plane right now. They're out there. This is the path they're taking. We track this very carefully. We watch the data they send back, because if they can find a closed center, then all the computer models can then key off of that point. And
then we start to know something.
Then the models just run better. And we can hopefully tighten that forecast track up a little bit.
Are they doing that right now?
Oh, this is live, yeah.
They're in it, okay.
Yeah, they're in it. We're out here right now.
So how long after now are we going to get something a little concrete?
So if they were to find a center and relay that data back to the Hurricane Center, and then they would run their suite of models, even like if they found a center right now, it's really going to be another 12 hours until we get that data ingested, the models run. So we're still talking about tonight at 10, maybe getting those better model runs. Maybe it would be as late as tomorrow morning before we get those tighter model runs. But that's just the nature of the beast.
Right.
We're kind of in a waiting game for a center to form so we can key all the models off that point.
And you're assuming one's formed. We don't even know that, right?
That's right. That's what they're out there looking for. That's why this flight is so important. We talked about this yesterday, waiting on this Hurricane Hunter flight today. They're out there. And the nice thing is it's so close to land, they can literally fly this 24/7 now. Let's take another look at this forecast track, because you mentioned there's so many people that have never been through a hurricane or are new to the area.
Right.
So, they try to find the most likely path. And I've found over time that quite often they're quite good at it, the Hurricane Center.
The center of the cone?
And the storm quite often does go closer to the center. But you can't count on that because weather forecasting, we have to deal in probability and statistics. There's no certainty. And the further you try to go out in time, the more uncertainty there is. That's why this gets wider and wider with time. And that's why, what do you have here? 200-mile stretch of area here, including the Galveston area. So we're in the possibility of getting a hit from this storm. It's not time to panic at all, but it is time to make sure that you are readying your preparations. You have food, medicine, water for 3 to 5 days.
Right.
Gathering hurricane supplies. This is what you should be doing right now. Talking to your family about what would we do if the power was out for 2 or 3 weeks. Flashlights, batteries for all of that. If we get a direct hit from a hurricane, a big one, we would have trees down. You would not be able to get in and out of your neighborhood. Think about that. For maybe more than a week, if a big one were to hit, can you be self-contained? You got to be able to camp out at your house, because at that point you would have emergency and first responders who just would be overwhelmed.
And I wonder, some out there who haven't been through this are thinking, well, I went through Harvey, we didn't flood here, so I'm going to be okay. Well, you didn't get any strong wind with Harvey that keeps you, with power out for days or weeks.
So we didn't get Hurricane Harvey.
Yeah.
We had the flood Harvey. But I think the strongest wind gust we had was 35 miles an hour with Harvey. So we did not get the hurricane part at all of Harvey. Hurricane direct hit is an entirely different animal. It's wind and it's power outages and trees down. So you can't just think, well, the day after the storm I'll get up and then I'll go to the store and get some food. Because it's likely you wouldn't be able to if we were to take a direct hit from this thing, which at the moment is very uncertain.
I don't think, Chloe, if you're listening back there, can we roll that video of what's happening in the French Quarter in New Orleans? Because I don't think we've run that yet, and I want to show people just what even a little bit of rain there.
So they have a real problem in New Orleans right now. First of all, they're low, of course, and they had 6 to 8 inches of rain in the morning, and of course they had a lot of street flooding. That's to be expected. They've also got this bulge of river coming down from the Mississippi because of the heavy snow and the heavy spring rain. So the Mississippi River is already in flood. And they actually have a situation there where if they were to get more heavy rain and storm surge, and with this the river beginning to crest, some of the levees may be threatened by this incredible rise that's taking place in the Mississippi. So it's another part of the story that we're following over there.
Okay, I'm going to look here and see if we have any. I don't think we've run that video yet.
And the number one thing that folks at home that you can do is be ready, talk about the plan with your family, and stay close to the forecast. And again, get the KHOU11 app. You have links to what the evacuation routes are. They're all there on the app and at KHU.com. Turn on the push alerts on the app so that as the new forecast updates come in, we do live video updates, you immediately have those at your fingertips. You've got the entire resources of the KHU11 newsroom and actually all of our sister stations. We have stations across Texas and Louisiana, and so you'll have the latest and everything you need to know to keep your family informed and safe. And just be ready in case we have to take action. And that would mean folks on the coast, if we were to get a closer call from this, you may be asked to move and evacuate from low-lying areas. Again, that's not the case at the moment. We just want to make sure that you are armed with all the information out there and all the latest updates. And the KHOU11 app with the push alerts turned on is really the best way to do that.
Some people are asking about a rain forecast for this. So let's assume for a second we're not on the dry side of this, that we do get some of it. I mean, how wet is this storm, or is there any way to know right now?
This type of storm can put down 10 to 15 inches of rain. The storm is not forecast to stall, but in spots it could put down 10 to 15 inches of rain. So that's a typical with a hurricane. Harvey was totally different. We ended up with 50, 60 inches of rain in some places because it stalled. So 10 to 15 inches of rain, you would see some of our watersheds impacted with flooding. We would probably have at least some watersheds that threaten homes with that type of thing, but not everywhere. So it would not be a Harvey repeat. With this type of a storm, if it were to come our way, it really looks like the larger threat would be the wind threat. And you would have at least hurricane force winds near the coast. And of course that means flying debris, broken glass, that type of thing. But again, I want to make sure if you're just joining us right now, at the moment we're on the western edge of the forecast cone. We do not have any type of hurricane watches or warnings for the immediate Houston-Galveston area. It's just a time to watch the forecast carefully and be prepared just in case the center of that cone shifts a little closer to Houston-Galveston. We're going to get an update on this, an updated cone at 4 o'clock. So make sure you're in here for KHU 11 News at 4 for the 411, and we'll have the latest on the track. I don't expect any big changes, but maybe that Hurricane Hunter will have found a closed low at that point. We'll see.
And we know a lot of people are watching, not just in the Houston area, right? They're down in Galveston. They're to the east somewhat too, so they see this and wonder where. I guess if you're going to be in the cone, it's good to be on this side of it.
It is. It is, but it's not good to be in the cone at all. At all.
Yeah.
So what are we doing here at Channel 11? So because we're here in Houston, we're in the cone. So we're having to now initiate all of our preparations to make sure we're ready to support our staff and all of our signal needs and power outage. If we were to lose power, we have to be ready for that. We're doing what you should be doing at home right now, just making sure you have some supplies, have batteries, and have a plan so that you don't get caught off guard and are ready to take action if it does come our way. Okay,
so an update at 4.
Yep.
Erica Lopez will be here with the 411 at that time, so we're about, in a little over an hour from that, and hopefully an update on this, and we'll see where we're going.
Slowly but surely this will come into focus, but it may take another 12, 18 hours before we get those tighter computer model runs.
All right, I'm going to let you get back to work.
All right, man.
He's been at the computer along with Blake Matthews to my right, Erica's to my left. The whole weather team's here working hard on this because there's a lot to do. So we'll see you for the 411 on the TV side coming up at 4 o'clock.
All right.
Have a good afternoon.